Hello. I am doing a VOD review of the Guard versus Sentinels on Icebox. This is game 2. Guard already won game 1. And I wanted to take a look at this game in particular because it displays the new Icebox with the changes and how both teams are playing a mirror composition using double controllers with Omen and Viper. So you can see the basic setup with for the Guard is 4 players towards one side of the map, 2 trips covering the mid and other side flank, and then they have 1 player also controlling mid. For Sentinels, on their defensive setup, you're going to see over and over again Tens and Zoms playing on a site together on verticality. You can see we have one on top of Jen and one on top of Pipes. And then Shaz on the chamber playing with Dapper's Viper on B site, with Trips holding any push through mid and Sova holding on Boiler, kind of just playing off of all of this information in mid. So a couple notes about Icebox before we move on at all is that this map is not like a lot of other maps, such as Ascent, such as Breeze, such as Split, where taking mid gives the attackers a huge advantage. It gives them additional paths. For Split, if you take mid control here, right, it opens up these 2 separate paths. If you are able to take vents, the defenders always have to be worried about a new path that you didn't have before if you're only coming from A main. Same for B Heaven. And that's the general idea with all of these maps. If you take the mid area, you open up additional paths to yourselves, and those paths are all pretty advantageous for you. This mid is basically a series of halls. So there is, you can go this way towards A, you can go under tube towards B past orange, or you can go up tube and into kitchen. The problem with all of these is that when you get to this point, for example, you are open to any of these angles. If you go up kitchen, someone can hold on bridge, someone can hold from site, someone can be holding orange. If you go under, you can be held from window, you can be held from site again, you can be held from the other side of site, you can be held from the bridge here. So as soon as you come out of any area of mid, you're exposed to multiple angles at once, and it's not easy to cut any of them off with smokes and take control linearly like that, like you can on certain other maps. So the main goal of defaulting on Icebox, which we'll see multiple times, is instead the fact that each site is really broken up into 2 parts. So there's front site, which you see the Guard immediately takes control of, for example, on A. And the same is true for B. If you take control of up to yellow, it's like a first half of the map that you control, that once you have that half of the site, that site is so much easier to hold. Or, sorry, so much easier to attack. So, with that out of the way, the one thing that you can do with mid on this map, and is extremely strong, is this smoke right here. This smoke is, in this round, I believe, thrown by Omen, but you'll see that Guard alternates it between both Viper and Omen. And this mid smoke cuts off vision from Boiler, it cuts off vision from this little part connected to A, and it allows you to either go up tube or go through to yellow without being seen by these angles. This smoke is so powerful because it makes it so that the defenders have to worry about mid. Because you could have one player holding into lurking, because you could have someone go through, there's actually a hole in the trips that someone could go to orange and maybe play around here, try to find picks. It basically just creates the need for Sick to be here. So mid is usually used as a lurk on Icebox rather than a position to take control of, and instead your goal is taking control of either front A or front B. Alright, let's take a look at the actual game now. So you can see on this first round, the guard immediately take control of front A with a drone out of Trent. And in this round, they decide to push up quickly and go onto site immediately. Sentinels does have 3 players because Sick quickly rotated over from mid as soon as he heard any pressure. And let's see how the take happens.
The guard on attack, working their way into A, and they've taken some space.
So Tens finds 1.
They haven't. Okay, that's certainly gonna help things. Side player, he's.
But then 3 come back in return. So let's watch that again.
And then Omen can sort of take care of your A smokes. The A hit is where you want to go. You can see Ten's already playing up on pipes.
That goes back to double controller conversation that.
So the positions being played by Sentinels is 1 on the right side of 410, Zom's in mid site, and Sick is at screens. Tens peeks out. Actually, no, he doesn't even peek out. He goes up on top of Headshot and finds the kill on Trent in Nest. So that's the first pick there. However, the guard has already taken control of Maze and pushed Saya up. And you're going to see how they get these 3 kills quickly in response. Omen flashes through Maze. And at the same time, Jet pushes the other side and finds Zoms isolated. Zoms has smoked main here, looking to find a 1v1 it looks like. But at the end of the day, his teammates are over here flashed by the Omen blind and can't trade Saya. As a result, Saya is able to swing around at the same time as Net swings Maze, effectively sandwiching Tens. Nets finds a pick, and Saya finds Sick on screens. It looks like this was actually just a spam through the smoke, which is pretty unlucky for Sick, but you can still see that they basically take up to Maze, pause, and then create a sandwich on the front site players with these 2 smokes here and here. So these are the default smokes that are going to be used every single time they're taking A. There is one variation, which is sometimes this will be Omen and sometimes it will be a Viper smoke. They basically always have a smoke here, but it's not always provided by the same character. And which smoke is used depends on basically the objectives of the round. So at this point, it's now a 2v4 on site already. HP is low, but it still allows time for guard to pick up post-plant positions, playing off each other. You can see that we have 1 Jet playing under balcony. You have Viper planning on site. You have Omen playing top pipes, and you have Net playing in Maze, basically holding the push out of this smoke. So the play that Dabber takes is actually probably one of the best he could have. Unfortunately, he loses the fight. So it was one of the best he could have because he dropped and got a 1v1 against Jet. But it's still a disadvantageous fight because he's dropped off of rafters. That leaves Shazam into 1v4, and it's cleaned up pretty quickly. So you can see that the guard's main objective early round is taking control of front site here. Once they have control of front site, in this round they just hit quickly. And they use the smoke here and the smoke on rafters to prevent anyone from swinging out back site and prevent anyone reinforcing the players on front site. They then use a little pincer from Maze and on the other side to deal with Tens on front site. And of course they got lucky with the kill through the smoke. Round 2, not much to look at. It's an eco. You can see that this is the one interesting thing. Guard uses a slightly different wall, like this, and it basically cuts off the entire new pocket area of site. And then they smoke top site with Omen, and it means that there's absolutely nothing you can do except for spam for the plant that they go for, which you'll see in just a sec.
Hit would look like on this site, and Saya player, he's just making it all his own. Tens has to dash back. Saya player's still in a really great spot. Yep, that's the thing I was about to say. The spike still hasn't gone down. Just hits them all through the walls, through the smoke.
They eventually push through, but you can see that Net's planting on one side that I guess you could push up behind the wall and spam it, but you have to basically get lucky and guess where the plant is.
As the guard gets it
they only bought four
so round 3 is the bonus, and this is absolutely crucial for the Guards' victory on this map, of course. Bonus round win is the most important round win for giving yourself a huge advantage. So you can see that the Guard did save. They stayed on pistols for their anti-eco on their 2 agents that have guns as their ultimate. That they buy on these 2 because, well, they do a Saya gets dropped the Vandal here, it looks like. Or I think it was Net's Vandal from last round. But of course they have this Jet ult for the next round, even if his economy is ruined, could go to Net. Same idea for Net and the chamber op.
Next round, that's all right. Guard can take some.
So you can see the same default setup. Jet and Omen playing a crossfire with verticality, and Viper and Chamber playing on B. This round is Guard's a little bit slower play, and you can really see the strength of Omen here. Without Omen, the only character that can get up to top green / white is Jet. Like in the old comp where you have Sage instead of Omen here. However, because you have Omen, you can blink him up there, and Jet can save her dash and updraft and just peek normally.
Now they do have a couple of rifles here, as Net also decided to upgrade.
You can see this lurk smoke again. Sentinels is using this smoke from Zombs to prevent anyone from pushing through mid-site here. And you can see that the Guard did already take control of the front half of A, so they're threatening the A hit still, just like they did before. But now they're contesting for front B at the same time. So this is a slightly different look for sure. One way goes up. Notice the wall is not going up because of the wall is not going up because of the Viper nerfs. And also, I just realized this is the one round that Sentinels won. I spoke wrong. This was not the reason the Guard won. They just won every single other round. And this round is key because you can see that the only round that Sentinels wins is off basically making an assumption. Jonah P pushes up here and assumes that there's no one at back yellow because Shaz got the 1 kill and TP'd out. If he hadn't assumed and they just cleared it together, Dapper would have died probably, being pinched on yellow, and it might have gone to Guard, even though it would have been a 4v4 retake. But can't really say too much about that. Round 4, this is the first true gun round. You can see that Saya didn't buy, using those knives instead, and dropped a rifle actually over to Net, it looks like. This is the big advantage of playing Jet Chamber, is you have so much economical advantage just from your abilities. Okay, so notice there's the mid smoke again, which you're gonna see Shaz has to worry about someone having come through. So he starts walking here, starts clearing things out. So just by placing that smoke, you've wasted so much Shaz's time that he could have been using on this rotation. Sentinels has made the correct call, and they've rotated 3 to A as with Shaz coming over as well. But the Guard already have taken front sight with that drone, right? So Sentinels was holding aggressively, but then the drone pushed them off and gave them control of front sight.
Now Guard have chamber trips just to guard the flank. All 5 players still looking up over towards A, but
Tens pushes up to Maze.
Playing very close here. He can't even teleport out very easily.
Net is able to get out off that teleport, and at this point, the Guard knows they've created a ton of pressure. So let's see what their decision is. Zombs resmokes that same smoke. This is going to be the default smoke you see on defense from Omen.
Sentinel seeming to double down. They want to go A.
Yeah, Jonah P just smoked mid, and that sort of culled a little bit.
So the Guard waited until 40 seconds after they'd taken front sight. Because of this, Sick and Shazam had started leaving because they're threatening either a mid pressure or B pressure. Obviously, Dapper's still holding here, but by having this smoke, they're still threatening and causing these players to rotate off when they freeze and hold noise. Instead, the Guard just hits the site, and now it's a 5v2 on site with Sick at the late rotate.
2 players left the site, and Saya players already here with an early kill.
Blade Storm coming through and paying off in dividends. How much more can they find? Net should be able to get the spike down. You've got Dapper who's going to be...
So they do trade 1-for-1 coming in with Saya updrafting and finding the angle on 10s. And then one Raptors player finding a kill into Maze, but then he gets traded out immediately. Right, this is Sick, I believe. Sick peeks out. Oh, actually, Sick got picked at the same time as the updraft kill. Before the smoke went down as well. Now they're left in a 3v4 retake. They do even it up to 3v3. But they find Zombs with a distraction from Trent, who is spamming away at top 410, but then Net just swings out and gets the kill after they find Zombs isolated on Rafters. So this looks like a little bit of a mistake, honestly, because they swung one player out here and then one player out here. You could argue that you're checking different angles, but in reality, what happened is Zombs opened himself up to a 1v2 versus two different players. Shaz get picked solo, and Dapper swang all the way around from B main back into mid, and finds one, but is still left in a 2v3 with very little time remaining. You can see he pushes in and then decides to just push up. Finds one. Trent holds the angle and finds the kill though. Trent could have probably just played time there as well, but he was confident. Dapper was running. Dapper was pushed up B main pretty aggressively, so guard were pretty well contained. Mid was slightly open for Sentinels, and it really was. So here, guard has taken A 3 times on their 3 map wins, and they went B on the 1 round they lost. I think because of this, Sentinels decides to rotate their setup for the first time. So instead of having Omen and Jet on A, they swap Viper over to A and have Omen holding on B. So here's where you're seeing the strength of the double controller, in that they can use smokes to control both of these front sites, right? Without having double controller, you basically have one site that is very difficult to hold onto because you will lose the front site immediately. Let's see what happens though. So Trent shoots this shock dart from spawn, and you're gonna see it's a double bounce shock dart that lands here and breaks the trip. It's a double bounce shock dart, in case you don't know. Sova says trick shot if you break utility with a double bounce shock dart. So these are the new wave of Sova lineups. So guard knows that the trip is broken on Kitchen. Off that knowledge, with this same mid spoke, they push 4 up through mid. So this is the only round in the entire game where there's an exception made to what I was just talking about at the beginning. This is the only round where multiple players push mid simultaneously. And it's off of that double bounce shock lineup that lets them know there is no trip to cover Kitchen. It leaves a guaranteed hole in the defense. And you can see the way that Sentinels responds. Sick is holding from bridge. They're worried about the mid push because they know they don't have that protection, and Zombs is watching this way. And Shaz is basically solo holding towards main. I want to highlight again, this is the only round that guard does this. They try something special, and it happens to be on the same round that Dapper is ulting A, and they swap up the setup. So this could have been a read, actually, from the guard, knowing that Dapper had the ultimate. So they know that there's either going to be an ult on A or B somewhere, and it's going to be extremely difficult to push into. So this is the round that they choose to go for the double bounce shock dart and make the mid play. Let's see what happens. 6 holding from bridge. He gives up the angle.
At almost the perfect timing. Now, if he goes for the repeat, he's going to be walking into it himself.
So notice before, this Viper Wall was always normal, and the Viper Orb as the Lurk Smoke was also pretty standard. But with the double controller, you can also smoke off Bridge at the same time. So Sick gets cut off, they spam through the smoke, he tries to dart, but they shoot it immediately. And feeling pressured, right, Sentinels want to make these multiple angles that Guard is looking at. So Ten starts pushing to try to get behind the players in Kitchen. However, Jonah P was left on top of Tube, another strength of the Omen pick here, right? You can have Jet still entering at the same time as Omen holding a vertical angle. And that turns it into a man advantage here. Now, Zoms gets caught mid-sight because he has players all around now, right? Zoms pushing into mid-sight left him surrounded from multiple angles. So this was probably a mistake from Zoms, honestly. If he had played back at yellow and played these kinds of angles, they don't have to worry as much. However, we're going to see that the Guard uses the new plant spot that did not exist before the patch. Sick tries to make a hero play, but again, these are solo plays that they're making. And Trent has just been holding it down B main this entire time, knowing that there's probably one holding it. The only time he pushes is once Jonah P throws a blind here. Watch that. That blind, even though it doesn't hit, it shows that they're trying to play for that coordinated push with the prediction that there's going to be one playing on B main, right? Blind came across this way. Now it's a 1v5. Dapper just goes for the save. The round's pretty much over. So the only time the Guard used this play is when Dapper has ult. They know he's going to be cutting off one of those front sights, which he did on A pipes in this case. And they instead know that they have to make use of their other two lanes of pressure. So they use this set strat, it looks like, to create pressure mid when they know things aren't looking too good for them on front side A.
To play more, you know, of these split bracket. Let me tell you that right now. You want to avoid that at all costs, and that's what's awaiting them.
Round 6 is an eco. There's not a ton to say. It gets cleaned up pretty quickly with the gun advantage. Moving on to round 7. This is Sentinel's only other round that they look close to winning. So Jonah P uses a blind to push off this line on B main, knowing that Shaz has been playing in the cubby. And they push up main. Dapper made a really risky peek here also, and they're holding for it. This is where this opening pick came from. Notice that Shaz is holding so far back that this is completely untradeable. This play feels very low percentage, and based on a read. We're going to see, I believe in the next round or 2 rounds from now, it does work out once, and it's probably what this play was designed to do. But we'll talk about that later. So because Shaz lost his sight partner, he plays a pretty passive angle with his ultimate. Does find one. Swings back through. He doesn't have TP, so he couldn't have gotten out if they had swung immediately. And here comes down the Viper ult. So Viper ult is still incredibly strong on this map, probably even more strong than it was, because of the little pocket now. Creates more angles and makes it harder to clear and creates real cover for Viper to play in. So Sick sends a shock dart in and finds Jonah P in the Viper ult, and Shaz finds a pick outside the Viper ult from Snowman. Valen pushes on top of the off angle in sight, while Net peeks out and tries to find one. So Net normally probably wouldn't make this play, but because they've been put in 2v4, actually it was a 2v4, he knows that they need to find a pick to start evening it up, and they know that Sentinel's goal is going to be surround the pit and then come in from all directions. He ducks back in the pit, and Shaz is unable to clear it. Then pushes out again once the wall is up. Zoms blinds through, trying to blind Valen here, while Tens dashes across to try and surround the pit. Valen finds the pick on Zoms pushing in because he is not blind, as you can see, likely because of the off angle he was playing on top of the little bench here. Net finds Tens after hearing the dash. Shazam spams back, but leaves it in a 1v1 in a Viper Pit, which is, of course, almost impossible for him to win. Valen pushes in, basically running guns, knowing that he just needs a couple body shots, and wins the round. So Viper is still incredibly strong in this map. You can play it solo Omen now, and we've seen some teams playing it that way, but it's because of rounds like this with the Viper ult. It's so oppressive. It basically guarantees a round win with just one ult. They won a 2v4 because of this one ult. The next round is another eco from Sentinels, so we're going to skip past it. Pretty much just gets cleaned up. Saya finds some nasty shots. You can see they do some default Omen smokes. They leave one side open, likely because of it being an eco. And they're fine just holding angles and using their gun advantage. So here Sentinels have returned to their default setup. Chamber Viper B, Omen Jet A. Always on that verticality, trying to get a crossfire, playing off that one way. So this is where Dapper makes the same play, and it works this time. Likely this play is designed to just try and catch the player that's holding the flank. And they were making a read that there was only going to be one there on the round, just like here. But you can see that Sen is still going for these singular plays like Dapper, just trying to catch their opponent off guard. Whereas the guard focuses a lot more on clearing things as a team and then trying to safely hold if you're a player like Jonah P. He did get caught off though. So in response, guard immediately pushes up, knowing that they're going to lose map control on the rest of the map. Trent ults, I believe finds a tag on Zoms. And now Zoms and Tens are trying to hold on site, but Zoms is cut off back site while Tens is mid site, and Valen's able to find that isolated kill on Tens. Once again, Sentinels are not playing in tradable positions. Zoms was blinding and likely calling that for Tens, but Tens died before the blind was able to get any value. Oh, you can also notice here, that was just the Viper smoke on Raptors instead of the Omen smoke, and they likely used the Omen smoke towards mid. It might have also been a response from Omen being holding over here, because they know that the Viper smoke can be brought up and down by the player that's on A, rather than having to worry about it from the person who's holding space. So here, we have a 2v4. Zoms, it was left in a 4v4 after Tens got picked here, but Zoms holds the maze push as Sick ults maze, and that nets them 2 kills, right? Sick gets the one from the ult, and Zom gets the one from the player pushed out of position. However, this is where things all go wrong. Saya pushes up with an operator, sees Zoms holding back sight. Zoms is not able to react to the drone call, and Shazam was also unable to trade it out. Now the double ops holds the singular push from Shazam as Sick pushes. Sick is also left in a 1v2. Zoms coming in. You can see that Sen just took 4 individual 1v1s. That's the only way you're going to win or lose this 2v4, is if you don't play off each other, you don't play in tradable positions, particularly when your opponent has 2 ops.
Because Shazam was up in heaven, right? He just found enough of an opening to sneak in and get the pick on to Zoms. Here's the ult coming through early on. How many times is gonna push B main though?
Round 10.
Right, he just found enough of an opening to sneak in and get the pick on to Zoms.
This is one of the cool ways that Omen is really useful. So you can see Jonah P puts up a smoke and then ults to Snowman. Because of the changes to Hut, you can't walk through here, and this is smoked off. So there's basically a wall here that Jonah P can hold while simultaneously threatening Shazam to create a pincer on Shazam. Now, Dapper is playing the exact way he's been playing, aggressively in B main, but Shazam is completely worried about the Omen. Dapper gets tagged by the ult and killed.
Look at that. He's behind enemy lines.
That space was created entirely by the Omen. Notice it is an eco from SEN, but so you gotta have some grace for them, but the guard uses their ultimates to secure a round like this to create as much of an advantage as they can for themselves. Using your util and ultimates on eco rounds is absolutely acceptable because the only way you lose those rounds is if crazy shots happen. So if you dump all your util and creating really good positions for yourself, you're guaranteeing the win. And it's just a single Omen ult that creates it.
Just pistols on the side of Sentinels. But the pressure that they're
And you can see, Jonah P stays back here, has cover from sight.
Just play back here. He has no worries about, you know, getting spammed through that hut. No, it's a full
And
block.
Zoms doesn't clear it and gets killed here.
Oh no.
It's pretty weird, honestly, that Zoms is not aware of that possibility.
It ain't good. That ain't
With the
Last two get cleaned up.
the window.
Their B are the guard.
Suddenly it's 9-1.
The guard.
Alright, so once again, SEN only make a change to their setup when they're having the Viper pit on A. You can see that Viper ult on A is their priority whenever they have it, and they're using it to shut down a portion of the map and try to contain the rest on the other side.
Last time didn't
However, Tens is playing on top
maybe they do.
with a rifle, and he gets opped by Saya from Belt. So there is a need to create a certain amount of pressure over the Viper ult, because that's the way that you beat it, right? You go past it and then surround the Viper. However, because Tens doesn't have an op, I have to say that this hold is kind of greedy. Because there's 3 players swinging on Belt, and Tens just gets picked solo by an op, by the way.
Trent.
Imagine if this was Shazam with his ult. It's a much more even fight, and they can TP out. Obviously, Tens can dash out too, but it just makes it such a harder fight playing that with a Vandal than with an op.
Oh, they fight over it. What is?
They have a bit more to deal with.
Now, because of that pick, Sentinel's defense is spread thin. Zoms has to rotate over to help on A. You have a single player with Sick holding mid, and then Shaz holding B main. Guard uses this space to rotate off of A.
He's able to hold the cross. But now he's given up his position. Guard are going to expect him to be playing around.
Drone out B main to clear Shaz off the angle.
Shaz's hand. He's the guy that has to
Mid
stop
players
the push.
all swing out simultaneously.
But it all falls
And notice
apart
Sick is
when
just
you
trying to
get
hold it
up
as a
back
gun.
Yellow, yeah, you have a TP, but you can't TP safely. You're just stuck back.
Blind
You're
through
alone.
orange, blinds Shaz, gets a free pick.
All of the options for Sentinels.
Now it's an unwinnable 2v5.
All right, Doug's back. Some of the strats they were making. Sentinels have not gotten value out of their
Final round, Sentinel's guns are also
You know,
in a
Tens or
pretty
Shaz are
poor
playing
state.
poorly. No, it is because guard don't let you up. They scout out.
Trent
they
is
don't
holding
walk
in
into the op,
spawn.
And when they do not walk into the op, they're using utility to clear you off the angle.
Sentinels
Tens
take front-
didn't really
sorry,
have fun
guard
with
takes
ops,
front side
slowing
A.
down the attacks on defense on
Trent's fighting Zoms, and he's got to get out quick.
Molly comes down.
Narrow sidestep as you see
Recon
forward.
scans mid-sight,
Guard starting
along
to
with the
push
shock
forward.
dart, pushing people
There's a
off.
whole lot here.
Tens is able to find one, but dies to the player top 410. You can see that Guard loves to do this.
Narrow sidestep.
They have 3 players here, 1 on top of pipes, 2 pushing up main, 2 push up maze.
There's a whole
Zoms swings out at the same time as Tens, and gets picked by Jonah P on top of 410. Tens swings out, gets one off of this space, but then obviously doesn't react to the 410 call fast enough, and is killed by the same player.
good on Tens to get one.
You can see that Tens and Zoms are repeatedly being put into these positions where it's like a 2v4 on site, where they have to play in front of these 2 smokes, and are really just being asked to create a miracle out of nothing.
Four falling in the
Viper pit goes down, and this round is effectively over. You can see that the pit covers your toes on rafters, doesn't even allow you to swing out on rafters.
It is not gonna be easy.
Sayo finds one with the op on flank.
That one down.
Shaz with the tour de force, not understanding that there's literally everyone just
Swing out of the smoke,
falls sick.
and it's all over.
Does his
I will very quickly
now look
take a look at this last round because even though we only get to see one round of guard's defense, they do play it differently. Actually, it's 2 rounds, sorry. You can see that they're set up as an opposed to Sentinels. While they still do this trip, first off, they put on the other side, and the lineup that they use bounces basically like this and breaks here. So it could be to avoid a lineup like the one that Trent uses. But the bigger thing that I want to point out is guard is playing Viper Wall on A with Orb on B. They have Viper Chamber B, which did happen a lot with Sentinels. But the big difference is Trent right here. Trent is playing A, and they're pushing aggressively here on A. So this is likely a read that Sentinels is going to go B on their pistol, which is correct in this case because Shaz is solo on belt.
V1 Optic.
Shaz puts a TP down, peeks out for info, and look at that. The guard have created a high-low for the belt swing, while simultaneously holding the angle swinging over to the left. Shaz is taking a 1v2 in an impossible fight, while these players are still safe. And Shaz gets killed before he can TP out. Off the pick, Saya pushes the belt, but the others fall off, while Net does the same play Shaz has been doing, swings out of the cubby, and finds a headshot right here. Boom. Single shot, TP's out, doesn't risk anymore. That's also a difference in chamber gameplay. You can see that Net makes a very calculated single shot and gets out. Shaz didn't even start his TP after taking a shot here. He probably didn't expect the high-low as well, but it does show a little bit of a difference in mentality. Shaz is also being forced to make space as the chamber and push up solo. Saya's belt push finds Dapper trying to repush A. Dapper swings out and tries to win that fight with the classic also, which is not a favorable fight. And now you only have Zombie Sick on B main. Net gives space, plays Snowman with the scope on his Headhunter. And Saya and Trent and Jonah P all push the flank, simultaneously containing them in the front side of B.
Just like that, a Prime Gaming flawless to open the half to get the guard.
Notice how guard's aggression is so much more coordinated than Sentinels. Rather than a single player making a play, it's doing things together, like this high-low onto this push. This was a singular play, but it's also chamber, so it's like basically what he's designed to do.
Sentinels scraped by, I felt like, through the group stage. A lot of their early matches, 2-1
Now, of course, it is a force buy, a massively unfavored force buy. And let's see what Sentinels does. They try to make a mid play. You can also see that Sentinels had a trip somewhere around here that created a little lane that it was possible for guard to walk through. But the guard's trips actually make it impossible to come up either through the tunnel or up to. They can come through this way, but this is a weakness that they're aware of with Trent watching, right? They are tripled up on A. They don't care about any of this stuff because they know this is the only way they can come that's dangerous. Fallon is also watching for this mid push. He mollies it as they come through. Gets a kill with superior weapons. Notice how Net is simultaneously helping. They have 2 angles watching the same area that Sentinels is trying to come out of. This is the dangers of mid, right?
3 just on the other side. And there are only 3 players. Make that 2. Standing between.
And the guard really just cleans them up. They give up frontside B, but they destroy the players trying to come through here. And now they just have gun advantage, and it's over.
As quickly as it started, it ended.
So, to wrap up, I want to just quickly talk about specifically what role the double controllers play in this map. Obviously, the guard were much more coordinated, played for team play, and it showed in the scoreline. But there are still lessons to be taken from Sentinel's defense, namely this smoke being extremely strong for preventing early pushes. But the guard also took advantage of it because once that smoke's down, you basically have control of this entire area. The guard, on the other hand, didn't put that smoke down immediately, and they did like a high-low here, right? Which their aggression basically allowed them to take control of front site when there was only a single player playing there. Meanwhile, we largely saw Viper walls on B from both sides on the attack half. And basically by having this wall, or the one that the guard did that was slightly different, that was more like that, it threatens the existence of any B push, right? By having two controllers, you still have enough smokes to keep mid pressure, as well as smoke rafters and smoke at screens to cut off this part of site. The goal of having all of these controllers is threatening the entire map at once and giving perfect smokes, right? You can also smoke nest on B as well at the same time as the wall. You have perfect smokes for the executes, and what you've lost is the Sage. But with the map changes, you don't need this Sage as much because you can do things like pushing up to danger safely. You can plant on the side of the site. You don't always have to do this wall and plant behind it. Basically, having additional smokes creates additional pressure on the map and creates more openings, is the primary goal of this composition. You can see that both teams prioritize stacking groups on sites, with Sentinels playing one single player mid, with trips covering mid pushes. The guard didn't even worry about that. They completely gave up mid, although they were aware of mid pushes, and they triple stacked A. It's a little bit hard to talk about the guard's defense because they only got to play really one real round that was even, which is why you'll have to take a look at other games. But it was a noticeable difference in their styles for this map. Anyways, that's about all I had, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope it was helpful.